Number 8. Rodolfo Lopez Ibarra. In late 2016, Mexican authorities arrested Rodolfo Lopez Ibarra, a regional boss for the Beltran Leyva cartel. Acting on a tip, they took him into custody at an airport in the city of Monterrey, where they seized $22,000 in cash, a .38 caliber handgun, and an armored SUV. Ibarra, who went by the nicknames El Nito and Nito Amavisca, offered the Nuevo Leon State Police $500,000 to let him off the hook. When they rejected the bribe, he threatened to murder them. The arrest came right as Ibarra was due to take over command of cartel operations in Nuevo Leon, after the previous boss was thrown in jail. And it wasn't El Nito's first brush with the law by a long shot. By then, he had already done time on some previous weapons charges. He had also been accused of trying to bribe the police and threatening to kill them when he was apprehended in a past case. While the outcome of Ibarra's more recent charges is unclear, the Beltran Leyva cartel was already struggling to exist when he was taken into custody. Officials have since declared the organization disbanded and extinct. Number 7. Monica Youngblood. Officers from the Albuquerque Police Department in New Mexico were running a DUI checkpoint stop one night in March 2018 when state lawmaker Monica Youngblood rolled up. The cop who approached her car later wrote in a criminal complaint that the 41-year-old's eyes were bloodshot and that she smelled of alcohol. He also claimed to notice that her speech was slurred, and she explained that she was on her way home from a friend's house and insisted that she was sober. She argued that her eyes were red because she was upset about a fight with her boyfriend. Youngblood refused a breathalyzer and allegedly did poorly on 4 different field sobriety tests. In her tearful pleas to avoid an arrest, which were captured on body cam video, she told the police that she's a legislator who advocates for the police. An officer responded by saying, "That doesn't make it okay for you to drink and drive," and took her into custody. Youngblood's attorney argued that there was no evidence that she was drunk and that she performed well on the field sobriety tests. But the judge disagreed, describing the woman's behavior in the body cam footage as flippant or characteristic of someone who's impaired. The lawmaker was convicted of aggravated DWI and lost her re-election bid later that year. In an ironic twist, her arrest came just months after she campaigned successfully to introduce Uber and Lyft services to the area as a way to prevent drunk driving. Youngblood maintained her innocence and said that she regretted not taking a breathalyzer. Number 6. Julie Hawes Gordon. Julie Hawes Gordon was a family court judge in Owensboro, Kentucky, when her son was charged with assaulting her. She allegedly tried to pull some strings with the judge overseeing his case in hopes of getting his bail reduced, and also used her influence to ensure that he received favorable treatment in jail. But that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the slew of complaints against Gordon that surfaced in 2021. In a 25-page ruling, the state's Judicial Court Commission wrote that the disgraced judge was known to hold court into the late night hours, sometimes requiring parents and families to appear after midnight. She also ordered her staff to drug test defendants when a local treatment center refused to do so. The employees were untrained in how to properly take urine samples and store the specimens in the same fridge where they kept their lunches. According to the panel that wrote the damning report and ousted Gordon from the bench, she continued to commit misconduct even after learning that a massive complaint had been filed against her. Included among the laundry list of accusations are claims that she violated ethics boundaries by appointing her son's defense attorney and enabling him to recover fees. Gordon's lawyer said that she was disappointed in the unanimous decision to take her off the bench and claimed that she was just acting as a mother when it came to her son's criminal case. They said that they were reviewing the opinion and carefully considering any potential next steps they might take. Number 5. Amanda Newins. Former prosecutor Amanda Newins was looking forward to what she hoped would be a new chapter in her career when she decided to run for city council in Chesapeake, Virginia in 2022. But all 6 of the prominent office holders who initially agreed to endorse her withdrew their support after shocking allegations of elder abuse came to light. The sudden downturn in Newins' campaign came after her great-aunt sued her in civil court for nearly $900,000 in damages. In the lawsuit, Shirley Davis accused Newins of isolating her and her late husband, Bobby Davis, by taking their cell phones, hearing aids, and eyeglasses away after convincing them to move in with her. Davis also claimed that her great-niece punished Bobby by forcing him to remain at the dinner table until his plate was clean, sometimes into the late hours. Newins also allegedly made the couple, who were in their 80s, clean up her pet's waste. Davis accused her former caretaker of adding her name to the couple's bank accounts without their permission and signing their house over to herself as a gift. NEWINS also supposedly sold Shirley and Bobby's vehicles, withdrew money from their accounts to the tune of 6 figures, and also used some of the alleged ill-gotten funds to buy herself a BMW. In a statement, her attorney Alison Zizzo said that NEWINS has a lot of family members and friends supporting her innocence, and that she looked forward to the opportunity to present the real facts of the case in court. Number 4. Rebecca FIERLE. 74-year-old Navy veteran Stephen Stryker suffered from a chronic condition that required him to have a feeding tube. When he ended up in the hospital in 2019, his state-appointed guardian, Rebecca FIERLE, requested a Do Not Resuscitate (DNR) order for her client. Stryker vocally opposed the move. He said he wanted to live, and was seemingly lucid enough to make the decision on his own. But the order was somehow procured against his wishes, and he choked to death just days later. It happened at a time when Florida's Office of Public and Professional Guardians was already under scrutiny for its handling of patient cases. The case caught the attention of multiple state agencies, who opened an investigation into Stryker's death. While executing a search warrant of FIERLE's office, detectives found several urns containing the cremated remains of 9 unidentified people whose ashes had never been given to the loved ones. Authorities charged FIERLE with aggravated abuse and neglect of an elderly person and accused her of signing Stryker's DNR without permission from his family or the court. The case is ongoing, and it's unclear how much prison time she could face if convicted. She continues to maintain her innocence as she awaits the verdict. The widely publicized tragedy helped shed light on the persistent issues throughout Florida with state-appointed guardians allegedly abusing their power. In 2020, new laws were introduced to better protect senior citizens. Under the new legislation, investigative teams have been appointed to focus specifically on cases of elder abuse, neglect, and suspicious deaths. Numerous other changes were implemented, including the ability for certain financial advisors to intervene if they suspect a client is being victimized. Number 3. Alex Big A Underwood. After being elected sheriff of Chester County, South Carolina in 2012, Alex Big A Underwood joined a growing list of lawmen throughout his state who seem to think that the rules don't apply to them. During his 7 years in office, he ordered his deputies to ticket, arrest, spy on, and harass his political opponents with no valid justification for doing so. He also flew first class to Las Vegas on taxpayers' dime and had one of his deputies cover up the spending so that the county treasurer wouldn't notice. Underwood also called deputies to his house for what he called work days. They spent as much as 40 hours per week renovating the sheriff's barn into a party space and performing various other home improvement tasks on the clock when they were supposed to be keeping the community safe. Taxpayers footed the bill for their labor, which came at no cost to Underwood. He also collected paychecks for work he didn't do and skimmed pay from employees who legitimately put in the time. The Charleston-based Post-Courier newspaper blew the whistle on some of Underwood's wrongdoings in 2019 as part of a bigger investigation into corrupt sheriffs across the state. He also fell under federal scrutiny. Underwood and 2 of his top-ranking deputies eventually had to answer to the allegations against them in court. The disgraced former sheriff was convicted of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, federal program theft, and unlawful arrest. He received a 46-month prison sentence, but remains in an apparent state of denial and has requested a new trial. Underwood's attorneys are accusing prosecutors of failing to produce evidence of his guilt. They're also trying to convince a judge to release their client from prison while he works on his appeal. Number 2. Roger Golubski. A young woman's life was turned upside down in the late 90s when she received a phone call from a detective with the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. He told her that he needed her to come in and speak with him because she was a possible witness to a crime. During the meeting, she was brutally violated, assaulted, and intimidated into silence. The victim's attacker allegedly threatened to kill her grandmother if she told anyone what had happened. Sadly, it was just the first of more than 10 encounters she would endure over a 3-year period. At one point, the victim was driven to a cemetery and ordered to get out of the car and dig her own grave. Charges were finally brought against the suspect more than 2 decades later in 2022, when federal authorities arrested retired detective Roger Golubski in connection with the years-long campaign of terror. A lengthy grand jury investigation identified at least 7 other victims, several of whom endured years of suffering. prosecutors have accused Golubsky of keeping tabs on his victims, framing people for crimes they didn't commit, and having dangerous ties to organized crime. The suspect allegedly targeted vulnerable women of color, including prostitutes. In the months leading up to Golubsky's arrest, the victim's ongoing anguish caught the attention of rapper Jay-Z and his social justice group Team Rock. They took out a full-page ad in the Washington Post to raise awareness about the case and campaigned relentlessly for long overdue justice. If convicted, Golubsky faces a possible life sentence. Number 1. Keith Vidler. By all appearances, Keith Vidler led a respectable and successful career as a sergeant with the Orange County Sheriff's Department in Florida. There's no doubt that he put his life on the line to keep the community safe throughout his decades of service, including when he pulled survivors to safety during the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2016. But the 30-year law enforcement veteran received a much different type of publicity in late 2021, when he was fired for allegedly abusing his power during a traffic stop. A spokesperson for the sheriff's office told the press that Vidler had a grudge against a man named Jeremy DeWitt he had spent 2 years investigating. An internal investigation found that Vidler had pulled DeWitt over on suspicion of carrying a firearm, which he's banned from doing because he's a convicted felon. The weapon turned out to be a pepper ball gun, according to the findings, which accused Vidler of taking DeWitt into custody, despite the perfectly legal weapon being in plain sight. The sergeant's supervisors determined that he should have let DeWitt go, but instead took him to jail. It was also revealed that the years-long investigation into DeWitt, based on suspected racketeering crimes, had suddenly been terminated in 2019. There was no contact between the two men between then and DeWitt's arrest in 2021, suggesting that perhaps Vidler didn't have a grudge like his superiors accused him of. He also claimed that he had called his supervisor after the arrest and was commended for a job well done. Vidler reportedly didn't seem surprised to lose his job, since he had been vocal about some things going on within the department that he disagreed with, including the way the DeWitt investigation was handled. Suspecting that he was fired for bringing up some inconvenient truths, he filed a lawsuit against Orange County Sheriff John Mina under Florida's Whistleblower Act, which is designed to protect public employees who file workplace complaints. The suit alleges that the sheriff's department falsely accused Vidler of targeting DeWitt as a convenient way to get rid of him after he drew unwanted attention to the fact that the investigation into DeWitt's suspected crimes was dropped. Included among the accusations against Mina are claims that several members of the sheriff's office criminally interfered with the investigation by shutting it down. Vidler has received considerable support in his attempt to clear his name and to expose what he claims is a disturbing case of internal corruption. An ongoing crowdfunding campaign for his lawyer fees has raised nearly $11,000 so far. Thanks for watching. If you suspected your well-liked boss of committing serious crimes at the cost of both employees and taxpayers, would you blow the whistle and report their shady behavior to law enforcement at the risk of suffering retaliation or having nobody believe you? Or would you protect yourself by staying out of it, quietly looking for a new job and moving on? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye!